Hello and welcome to Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right of centre viewpoint. And we got the usual crowd in tonight, and we're missing our extra new person, but we still have Sam.
Hello.
And Susan.
Hello.
And Jonathan.
Hello.
And I'm Steve. And a few things to get through tonight, and the first one on our agenda is the Queen's summons. So the news is, the Queen has summoned senior royals to Sandringham on Monday for face-to-face talks to discuss the future roles of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Palace officials told the BBC that Prince Harry, the Duke of Cambridge and the Prince of Wales would all attend, while Meghan is expected to join the discussion over the phone from Canada. The Sussexes say they plan to step back as senior members of the royal family. There is no suggestion a conclusion will be reached at the meeting. But BBC royal correspondent Johnny Diamond, that's a good name, isn't it, said it is hoped that the talks will produce a next step on the way to defining the couple's new relationship with the royal family, in line with the Queen's wish to find a solution within days. He added that they were still formidable obstacles to overcome in the talks. So this has been all over the world news, hasn't it? Everyone's interested in our royals. And what do you make of it, Sam?
I'm really angry about it. I think that Meghan has completely stolen him from his family. And I think she's had this plan from day one. As soon as she got a clause in him, she's taken him away.
Oh.
Why on earth would you marry into the royal family if you didn't like the publicity? I wouldn't ever. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can see why she doesn't like it, because I wouldn't envy the royal family for anything in the world. You can't even blow your nose without it being in the newspaper. It's really tough. It's not nice. You know, people think, oh, because they've got a lot of money, it's easy. It's not. I would absolutely never. I would never ever choose to be a royal if I could. But that being said, I think she's putting her family at massive risk. Security wise, and I just think she's been really selfish.
But in the past, when people have kind of stopped being a forefront royal person because for love or whatever, for their relationship, it's been kind of applauded, hasn't it? There are stories about...
Like who?
Well, in the past there are
like
royals...
Who?
Well, I'm not going to name specific royals, but...
Because there aren't any. Because if you think about it...
Not just ours.
No, but in England, you had Princess Margaret, who was having a relationship with a married guy, and the Queen basically said to her, if you don't end this, I'm going to excommunicate you. So she had to, because it was frowned upon. You can't really use Edward choosing Wallace Simpson as a good example, because he had to abdicate as a result of that. So
yeah, but what I'm saying is, and the problem is, the reason I won't name anyone is broadly because I'm terrible at remembering the names of the royals. So thank you for putting me on the spot. But
you can't just make a claim.
Yeah, but I mean that's a good case, isn't it? Because that one is seen as a bit of a heroic kind of outcome. People look back at it and say that the right thing was done.
Really? They think that guy? They Prince Edward. People look around him really badly.
You think? What do you think, Susan?
I don't really see the problem with it all. Let them go. There is no problem. And it's all in good saying she knew what she was getting into. No one knows what they're getting into with that sort of environment. She's had a baby, and that changes a woman's outlook on every single thing. And I don't see why anybody, even the Queen, has a right to tell anybody who they can love, where they're going, what they're doing. And if they're sitting there saying they can be financially independent, then let them. Good luck to them. Hope they get on well.
I mean, bearing in mind him, when you join the royal family, are you saying that you can never leave? Is it like a prison?
That's what I mean. It's either them or us. I mean, what is that?
He was born into it. Are you saying that they can never choose to step down? What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, you can see now why Andrew behaved the way he did, can't you? It's the easy way out. It gets you out of the situation.
Yeah, but I just think, so the Queen, it's not about necessarily what you want, it's a massive sense of duty, isn't it? And the Queen never wanted to become Queen. She was thrown into it because of her father's death. She's done it admirably, and she's just done it as a sense of duty. And all things like this do, it just plays into the hands of these Republicans that don't want us to have a monarchy at all.
Yeah, but I think we would all accept, I think most of us are monarchists, and I think I'll ask you in a minute actually. But I think for people with a monarchist point of view, there's nothing wrong with saying the Queen has been brilliant, because of course she has. But does that mean that nobody could ever say, I don't want to do this, if they're born into it? Is that really not allowed?
No, I do get your point, and I think if they genuinely say they're not going to take any money from the public purse at all, then, fair enough. But I think it's a bit off how they did it, to not tell the Queen at all and just announce it on the internet. I just think she's had this plan all along, and then she's happy to use the royal name to set up a Duchess of Sussex, a fashion house. So you can't on the one hand say that you love being a royal because it makes you money and does things for you, and then on the other hand say you hate it. She's never
said she loves being a royal. She just says she loves her husband.
But if she doesn't love it, why use the name then?
Well, hold on a minute. I mean, we're conservatives, right? She has married him. He is who he is, and they have that name. I mean, it's good capitalism to use to make a brand like that and to use it. And I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit because I don't think that she should get a penny of public money.
No.
But I'd have no problem at all with her using the name and the fact that he's a prince. I mean, what's wrong with that?
I just think he's going to end up regretting this big time.
Oh, you might be right.
Divorced within 5 years' time.
You might be right.
I hope he does. He does dump her.
Oh, that's hard.
No, because I just don't like her. I really don't like her.
Yeah, but
I don't like
to
her
wish
at all.
divorce on someone just because you don't
Because
like
he
one
needs
of
to
them.
find someone really nice. Like
What,
everyone
someone that
loves
toes the line
Catherine.
to the Queen?
No, but Catherine, everyone loves her. Like Catherine's going to be the
She's
nation's
being
princess.
cheated on left, right, and centre, and you know it. You
Prince William is not cheating on
Yeah,
Catherine.
there's been loads of stories.
I'm not sure we can say that on this
About Prince
podcast.
Andrew.
You're treading in dangerous ground here, Susan.
Prince William is no way. I can't even
I like the
imagine it about him.
royals. Okay, I like the royals, and I think they're good for this country, and I'll always back them up. However, Jonathan, stop rolling your eyes.
This is really getting spicy.
But I just think it can't always be follow and toe the line, or you're out. Like I said, if someone had a relationship, end it, or you're out. You can't. In this day and age, I just don't think it's right.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
in
a
my
newly
view,
married couple.
anyone's
let
got
them
the
do what
right.
they want.
Anyone's got the right to say, I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't
And
agree
I
with
don't have a
Kate.
problem with her using the name for her business. Good for her. It's good capitalism. It's sensible. I do have a problem if they're going to keep tapping the public purse
Yes,
forever.
completely agree
But
with that.
remember, the royals are all wealthy in their own right. She was wealthy when she came into it. None of them are short of a bit of cash.
And I think if you actually look at it, the money, the sovereign grant, of which they only get a very small proportion of, is 36 pence per year per taxpayer.
Yeah.
So the royal family don't get a lot of money actually from the taxpayer.
I know, but that's a bit of a trick. That's
That's a
still a
bit of a
hell of a
scam.
lot of money.
Oh yeah,
Millions,
it's
tens
a
of
lot,
millions of
but
people
a
paying
lot of it's for
36p.
security and things. There's a lot, there's a lot of. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they should always necessarily get loads of money, but it's really dangerous. All of this stuff is dangerous arguments for Republicans.
Jonathan,
And opening the
if they are told, if they say we're not going to take a penny of public money, and then they're not allowed to have the royal protection, do you think how risky do you think that is for them?
I don't think it's particularly risky. I mean, the thing is that at the end of the day, the royal family is a very large organisation, and even if virtually everybody you could name was wiped out, there'd still be a royal family, and there would still be a monarch. That's the point. So, I mean, the odd one sort of being, a good example would be Louis Mountbatten, uncle of Prince Philip, and a second cousin once removed of the Queen, so related to both of them, and blown up in his boat by their IRA. And how much difference did that make in the end?
I think it made quite a bit of difference to his family.
Yeah, well, possibly, but
Somebody raised them all
Please,
around.
Jonathan.
but in terms of the monarchy, it doesn't.
No, and you're right about the extended monarchy, but he's not just some random extended monarch, is he?
Well, hang on.
Although I suppose now he's got loads of people in line.
Managing the last month or so to effectively sack Prince Andrew, and yet you're saying that these two are so vital the monarchy needs to hang on to them. What's the issue? I don't understand it. It's not as if the monarchy is not going to survive. The Queen has. Then the Queen's got loads of grandchildren, and if she hasn't, you go to the next one who's entitled to it.
I tell you what, it's a slippery slope. This happened with Camilla. They should never, ever have let him marry Camilla. And everyone said at the time this is going to be a slippery slope, and the monarchy is just getting lax with its traditions, and now this proves it.
You're so
Some
authoritarian
traditions
with the
are right.
royals.
It's tradition.
Yeah.
Tradition is tradition.
But
Good grief.
you and I would argue tradition's not always good in certain things, is it? So you can't just sit there and say it's tradition, so therefore it should be okay.
Well,
I don't
look.
know. I just think it's the biggest institution that Britain has ever had that goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And I don't know. I really love it.
All right, let's give it let's give it an unapologetic decision here. So I'm going to ask each of you what you think should be done, what you think the Queen should do about this. What do you think the Queen should do, Jonathan?
Absolutely nothing.
Thank you, Susan.
I think she should be a good grandmother and wish them well and stop being so petty over it.
Oh, I'm not sure she's been petty yet.
Yeah, well, I am, Steve.
All right, what do you think, Sam?
Well, I think she should
Execute them?
She should. Apparently
Into the tower
it's
with you.
frowned upon now, but I think she should remonstrate with them strongly.
Remonstrate strongly.
Because they were out of order to not tell her. That was just bad etiquette, really, and impolite. So she should remonstrate with them and then just say to them, all right, off you go, and don't come back.
Did you swallow a dictionary today? What's going on? Who's replaced Sam with an alien?
And then she should say, if it doesn't work out with Megan, you're not welcome back into our family ever again. And she won't really mean it, because no one ever does. But
the other thing is,
So you're pretty black and white on this, aren't you?
Yes.
You're in or you're in, or you're out, you're out.
there is a history here of members of the royal family going to Canada. Princess Louise went there, and
You just keep rolling them out. And
one of Queen Victoria's daughters who ended up over there. She's the one that was sort of the honorary colonel of the Argylls.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we call him the elder statesman.
Well, no, I mean, you see,
And it is true. I mean, the monarchy will survive whatever. I mean, if we haven't got one, we'll just find a German to do it again.
If there was
fine.
further nuclear
We're only
war,
losing 2 and a bit.
somewhere there'd be someone who would end up as the monarch,
Might be Donald Trump.
Also, look at it the other way. Since she's got here, she has been slated left, right, and centre in the media. She's been called picky, nasty,
Well, she does bring it. I think she brings it on herself.
How does she? Have you ever met her? Do you ever know any? I mean, being
I haven't met anyone who's in the media. Everyone knows the newspapers always
have
tell
we
the
ever
truth.
met that person? So how can we possibly sit and say what she's like? And everyone's slating her, saying she's mean and nasty and everything else. Well, she has been absolutely slaughtered in the press. Since
She
she's got
supports
here.
Greta Thunberg. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, but I get the point is, right, this isn't new, this shouldn't have been news to her, so she should have she knew before she got married and had the baby and all of that, so she could have been saying to Harry from day one, look, I think we need to get back, have a small marriage. She didn't need to have all this big, massive, Westminster Abbey ceremony.
That was ridiculous,
and she could have done all of that, but she didn't want to. She liked, in my opinion, she liked the whole massive wedding and everyone giving her attention and getting all this money from it and getting all this fashion house and all of that.
Haven't
but
they
she
just had
doesn't
their
want
house
it-
decorated as well?
Exactly.
2.5 mil, I think.
Just
it was.
2.5 million to have the house
honestly,
decorated.
I just really think
Well,
she's a bad
I'm
egg.
sure they're going to pay that 2.5 million back anyway. Once they leave, they obviously owe that to the taxpayer.
Well, it's not their properties. It's the Queen's anyway. So she paid for it to be renovated, I guess.
Imagine
That's
living
what
forever in your mum's house. That'd be bad,
Well,
wouldn't it?
I saw a meme the other
Not
day
just the
saying,
palace.
breaking news, 35-year-old man leaves grandmother's house and everyone's kicking off about it. Literally, he should be able to do what he wants to do. And like you said, when you've had a baby, it just changes things. And maybe
Fair
she doesn't
enough.
want her child to be the third, fourth behind everyone
Well,
else.
the unapologetic declaration was kind of 3 that aren't too bothered and 1 who I think wants the death penalty brought back. Into the tower, summon the crow master,
imagine,
whatever,
right?
the raven master,
You know, I'm
whatever
actually
he's called.
thinking, who else I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for that little Archie because he's gone from hero to zero literally overnight. Like, he was, in line to the throne, he was a really cool guy, and literally he's going to go to Canada and just be a nobody.
A lot of accidents would
Overnight.
have to happen
He
for him
is-
to get thrown.
He's the son
Of a prince.
of a prince. He's not going to Canada and being a nobody.
I don't think...
Even in school, he's going to be cool.
She should make him say he's not going to be in line to the throne.
Okay, look, it's time to move on because we could talk about this forever. and-
Harry, I'm not angry.
I've got news for
disappointed.
you, Sam. We're all in line to the throne. It's just how far in line.
Yeah.
So, Harry, if you are listening to this, just pay attention that Sam of Unapologetic, she's really furious with you. She's very disappointed.
And
Anyway.
if you're looking for a new girlfriend, I'd really like your nan. So.
Sam
I won't tell her.
Did you
I
say,
won't-
did you say you'd like her, his name?
No, I like you, nan. I won't cause him any family problems
What's
at
going
all.
on here? Right, listen, the next item is a teenager has been arrested after a motorcyclist was blinded in one eye by an egg thrown at him from the car. The man, 31, was hit in the face as he drove with the visor of his helmet up on Newton Lane, Wigston, Leicestershire. He had an emergency surgery after the attack at about 23:15 GMT on Friday, but his eyesight could not be saved. The boy, 17, was arrested in Staffordshire on Saturday on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. So, the reason I brought this up is because in our local area we've had some problems with youths throwing eggs at cars and vehicles, and people always say, well, sooner or later they're going to get in right trouble. And here's evidence. Evidence you can get in right trouble. What do you think, Sam?
I don't know.
She's still wound up about the royal family.
You can't make the egg on the face joke. Everyone's made that joke, and the guy's lost his eyesight. It's not a time for jokes.
No, I think the person should be locked up for assault.
In the tower?
No, the tower, no.
All right. Oh, no, and well, obviously that person's got to be found guilty in a court of law first, but
I think everyone should remonstrate with him.
demonstrate strongly with him. What do you think, Susan? Sam's not on the... I think she's been on the funny juice tonight.
Do you know what? It's 50-50, isn't it? the best time to be stupid and annoying and do things wrong is when you're a child. That's what you're supposed to be stupid. You're supposed to do daft stuff. You're supposed to kind of push the boundaries and that. Is it wrong? Yes. Should he be punished? Yes. Should he have the rest of his life ruined by it? No. But
He's lost his eye.
I understand that.
He's had his life ruined, hasn't
When
he?
you was a kid, did you not do stupid stuff? I played Knockdown Ginger.
Yeah, but what's that movie where the kids push that trolley down the...
Sleepers.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sleepers,
no.
right. Now,
I can't look at Kevin
Now, every
Bacon.
time I watch that movie, I think to myself, well, it's obviously the whole story is really sad and they get their own back, etc. But they really shouldn't have pushed that trolley down the stairs, should they?
They didn't deserve to be molested, though, did they?
No, obviously not, but they did deserve to be locked up. That's the point.
They did.
You're taking the story too literally now, Susan.
That film was... I've never, ever been able to
Why
watch
do you just
Kevin
want
Bacon
everyone
again.
to get away with doing naughty
I
stuff?
don't want to...
Forgive them, says
It's like
Susan.
the Queen to go all over again.
You are basically a Lib Dem, aren't you? With a...
hard stance on work.
Do you want prisoners to have the vote as well?
No.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Oh,
actually.
shut up, Jonathan. What do you think about this egg throwing through business anyway?
Unfortunately, a prison sentence isn't going to really cut it for that kind of thing.
What, you want more than a prison sentence?
I would, yeah. Deliberately blinding somebody, yeah.
He didn't mean to. Look, I know.
The fact he didn't. Anybody knows.
He threw a projectile at someone moving at speed on a motorbike.
He threw a projectile from a car. That ought to be. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
We'll hang them and flog them tonight, haven't we?
I do think
Except for Susan, who's gently cuddle them, yeah. Give them a pat on the head and say, never mind, never mind.
I do think
if
you
you
should
knew
do
with
some time.
absolute certainty throwing stuff from a vehicle would result in the death penalty, you wouldn't do it, would you?
No.
That's true, but you wouldn't do almost anything if it resulted in a death penalty. But that's not a reason for having
I bet people
the
don't.
death penalty for jaywalking.
I bet people don't throw
That's an
eggs at
American
people and
term,
blind
by
them
the
in
way.
Iran.
Yeah.
No, but do we want to be Iran? I bet people don't dump their queen in the lurch in Iran.
They don't. They just come and leave it.
Everyone's going to be paying the price for this business with the Queen, aren't they, from Sam tonight?
Look, I do think that 17-year-old deserves to do a bit of time, but I don't think we should demonise him either. He's done something stupid, irresponsible.
No, he did
and
something
completely
evil.
daft.
He knew that throwing stuff from a car, he was intending
I
to
bet
hurt
you now
someone.
he never thought that he would take someone's eye or life. Never
No,
thought. He wouldn't have been
no,
that little head. He's 17,
It's different
stupid.
from that.
What's
He didn't care whether he would
He
injure
would
somebody.
have done. What do 17-year-olds think about, Steve?
Yeah, nothing.
Boys.
They think of girls and,
Yes.
and fun, and
Not
that's
once
about
do
it,
they
really.
think of the risk ahead.
We're being a
Their
bit general
brains
because
don't
obviously
even
some of
get
them
up to
think
it.
more than that. But I mean, so what I would do, I think, is I don't think I don't know what his previous is, but let's presume this is the first time he's been arrested. I don't think that he should go to prison. I don't think that benefits. I think he should have a suspended sentence for a couple of years. So if he does anything else stupid, he's off straight to prison. But then I would make him pay some money for the rest of his life to the man whose eye he took.
There is talk about that, isn't there? So when people do the one punch thing, and obviously they make life-changing medical problems for their victims.
Yeah.
The argument is that they should be paying for their care.
Yeah, they
straight
should.
into either the NHS or to the victim themselves.
I mean, I know if I was blinded by someone doing something stupid, them going off to prison, I might get a bit of satisfaction from it, but it's not going to help me.
No.
And that blindness is going to affect everything I do. So I think a compensation, you having to pay a compensation for the rest of your life for that person, would be a good way to sort of address the balance. It wouldn't solve it.
Seems
I think
more
it
like
would
Or they could make he could have to give him his eye. Literally an eye for an eye.
You are basically Black Mirror tonight,
Like
aren't
an
you?
eye transplant. Like an eye transplant.
Give him his eye because he took his
The
eye.
other thing is to give him a lifetime ban from ever entering a car again.
Or buying
What do
it.
you do for a living, sir? I'm a doctor. Oh, that's good. Oh, no, it isn't good. I take people's eyes for in recompense for crime.
forcefully cut their eyes out.
Like Judge Dredd.
But I mean, it'd be
I am the law.
relatively easy within the present judicial system to put a court order in place banning him from travelling in a motor car ever again. And his punishment would be he will have to walk everywhere. He cannot travel on a motor
ban him
vehicle.
to travel in a motor vehicle ever again until he pays X amount of money to the guy whose eye he took.
Who's
That-
going to police that though?
Oh, no, things get policed, don't they? So it's a
Yeah.
contract. I imagine the person getting the money would police it. Basically, if you want to reverse the penalty you've been given, you've got to pay your way out of it to the person whose eye you took.
Remember, the punishment's not supposed to be punitive, is it? It's supposed to be
Yes, it is.
restorative.
It's absolute. The whole point of punishment is to punish. There's no other purpose other than to punish.
Yeah, but it's
And
not
this
supposed-
is where we have really gone wrong. And not only that, it's a benefit to the person who's being punished because at least they know they're being punished.
Yes, so I don't agree.
Yeah, but you can't, like, so what are you going to do?
You
If
can't
someone's like a
always bash
child killer,
someone.
you say to, like, Fred West, oh, we're going to, restorative justice.
No, because there's some people that never
He's
will
dead
be.
now anyway,
but
but-
for instance, if someone stupidly did something daft in a car, like looked at their phone, which I massively don't agree with, or took their eyes off and shouldn't to someone else and caused back problems, what are you going to do? Punish them for the rest of their life? That mistakes happen. And the idea is that everyone has to live in society, and if you punish them to the point that they've got nothing to lose, then you've got problems.
No, and I do agree there, and I think actually, that's why that is why there is a difference between manslaughter and murder, isn't it? Because manslaughter is killing someone without intent, and there is a big difference between intentionally going out to kill someone and it being an accident.
So just to summarise then, Sam would take their eyes and give them to the victim.
No, I wouldn't. Really.
Jonathan would beat them to within an inch of their life as a punishment.
And make them
Well,
wait.
no, I would simply stop them going in any motor vehicle for the rest of their lives.
And gentle Susan would subject them to a soft, warm breeze.
I wouldn't!
No, you wouldn't even give them a soft, warm breeze.
I'm not talking anymore.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 3. So, this is an interesting statement that's been made today. Apparently, Britain must be prepared to fight wars without the United States as its key ally, the Defence Secretary has warned. Ben Wallace said the prospect of the US stepping back from its international leadership role under Donald Trump keeps me awake at night. That's his words. It may force the UK to rethink its assumptions about defence, he added. His comments come as the UK prepares to carry out the deepest review of Britain's security, defence and foreign policy since the end of the Cold War. He said, I worry if the United States withdraws from its leadership around the world. Mr Wallace told the Sunday Times that it will be bad for the world and bad for us. We plan for the worst and hope for the best. And I thought this was interesting because normally Trump is getting criticised for action, and here they're saying, basically, please don't pull back Trump because we need you. What do you make of it, Susan?
Not a lot. Let me go second or third. Sam,
All
you
right.
go first.
Sam, you go first.
So they're saying that America, we shouldn't rely on America.
Yeah. Because Trump is basically saying, he's threatening that he's always been moaning that we don't put enough into defence and that America is basically the policeman of the world, and he's kind of saying that they're sick to death of getting criticised by everyone when they actually defend everyone, so he's going to stop doing it. Whether he does or not, nobody knows, but he's suggesting that America will stop being the policeman of the world, if you like, stop taking military action on everyone else's behalf, look after yourselves. And suddenly I think some of the people who have been benefiting from that defence all this time have gone, perhaps this isn't as good as we hoped. So, I mean, that's my take on it. But
Yeah, I think we do need to be self-reliant. I mean, we used to be a massive superpower. Now we're, paling in comparison. I think we need to go and buy loads of nuclear weapons, increase the army size. I think, I think that's, we need to be able to defend our island.
So we're one of the few countries who are part of NATO who keep up with our agreed contributions to NATO. That we have the right size army, we spend enough on defence. Not many of them do, but we do. I mean, what do you think, Jonathan?
I think there's scope for making improvements in the armed forces, but also basically using them more often. I mean, we have used them to intervene in a number of places where the Americans have not been involved. So, yeah.
Build a few more naval destroyers as well.
Well, I mean, they've basically got 2 brand new carriers, which should enable Britain to project power around the world anyway. This is obviously also timed with sort of review of what we do, and you've got the Defence Minister here basically saying we need to do more, not less. Yeah. It's not entirely a surprising message, and I suspect what will happen is that broadly they'll decide, well, actually we need to stay as we are, but
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jonathan, I think you probably need to speak up a bit because some of our viewers have said that you're a bit quiet. It's because you sit a little bit further away than the rest of us in our little tight circle here. But I think, although I can't hear our recording, I think you probably need to be a bit louder tonight, which is why I'm doing these furious gestures that you're ignoring. Susan, are you ready now?
I thought
Yes,
you were doing
I
some
am.
sort of hand dance.
That means louder. That's what my uphand gesture means. Louder.
He's been getting ready.
What do you think it means? What do you think I'm doing
I
it
have
for?
no idea.
Oh my goodness, Susan.
So what I think is really sad that we still have to look at defences and we still have to look at the fact that threats are quite real against us and other people. I really do think in today's world and all the thing that's happened, we don't seem to have learned anything. And I'd say we, as in not us as our country, I mean the whole world, have yet to learn anything about humanity, kindness. And...
Are we going to sing Kumbaya now?
Honestly,
Honestly, Sam wants to triple the size of the army and buy all the nukes, and Susan wants us all to have a big world hug. Arms around the world.
When you get some little horrible nation come over here and try and invade us, and you've got a little hug and a kiss, and they've got loads of nuclear weapons and loads of massive guys with massive guns, and they kill all your family, you're going to be like, oh man, I wish I'd bought some more stuff.
So right,
now.
let me clarify. I think it's really sad that we have to. The fact that we have to says that we should be self-sustainable, we should be solid in what we've got, we definitely should be able to defend ourselves. And I don't agree with always hugging everybody to get them to do what we want to do. I just think it's really sad.
But our armed forces are not bad. That's a power that in world states we're quite a good set of armed forces. But compared to America, we're a minnow. I mean, they spend a fortune, and I do not blame them for being annoyed.
No, I don't.
I mean, how annoying must it be to constantly have to be the policeman of the world, and then whenever it suits, snide politicians from other Western countries who go, oh, Trump this and Trump that, and America this. When without them, you'll be at the whim of every terrorist and upstart state in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What were you going to say, John?
I was going to say about, this.
Oh, hell, you're loud now.
Based on a false premise, in as much as this sort of idea that we back the Americans and the Americans back us. We dismally let them down during the Vietnam War, which we didn't get involved in. The Australians did, the New Zealanders did, but we stayed out of it.
We let them down a bit in the War of Independence too.
There were no Americans involved in that. That was British colonists against the British state. There was no
they weren't Americans yet, that's true.
There were no Americans
of course
involved
they were.
in
They
that.
lived there, didn't they? Anyway, so that's been an interesting one. It went a bit further than I thought it was going to. We're going to move on to agenda item 4. So this one's about Labour contender Clive Lewis. And Susan popped this one to our attention today. Clive Lewis has sparked fury after claiming the historic Brexit vote had racism at its core. The Norwich South MP said non-white Britons woke up with a sense of dread the day after the referendum, which will see Britain finally leave on January the 31st. Having previously suggested racism was a reason for some Labour MPs were not backing him, the arch-Remainer now also claimed it was integral to Brexit. He said, I think part of the Brexit campaign and part of the undertone of Brexit for some politicians, Nigel Farage and others, had racism at its core and its heart. How many people of colour, I don't know why he said it twice, on the day of after the referendum with a sense of dread because of what had happened? Ultimately, our country has chosen to listen to Boris Johnson, someone who has a track record of racist commentary and of giving credence to racism. But despite his bizarre claims, the leadership hopeful admitted some of his own family voted to leave the EU. So what do you make of Clive Lewis? Who should we go to? Jonathan.
You've got to admire this guy, haven't you, really? In as much as you've just lost an election because your party failed to get behind Brexit, and large numbers of your core supporters have voted against you because you failed to get behind Brexit, and you then accuse them all of being racist. And I can see these voters perhaps wanting to stay with the Conservatives. If the Labour Party is simply going to say, well, you're morons and you're racists, which seems to be the message coming out of the middle classes in the Labour Party.
Yeah, and what is it with Labour, Susan? What's it with Labour feeling like they can just call people names who don't agree with them?
That's exactly why I sent you this thing, because it sickens me to the back teeth that every time the argument comes up, everyone is a racist, they're bigoted, they're fascist, because they voted to leave. And no one's asked them why they voted to leave, no one cares about that. And actually, when someone comes up with a good answer why they wanted to leave, it's no, you're too thick, you didn't know, you're too silly, you don't realise what you did. I am honestly so angry at people that I know that are good people that have just been branded by, well, very privileged people.
People like Clive Lewis.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam, what do you think? How do you think that the people of colour, the various groups around the country that he's talking about, who did vote for Brexit, must feel when he's basically calling them racist? What do you make of it?
Well, I think they just think he's a bit stupid, really. But I think you just need. It's like a lot of people, isn't it? They like to blame something rather than just saying that they're shit. Rather than saying, I'm rubbish, I'm no good, and that's why people don't want me. They have to blame some other reason, or they don't want me because of X, Y, Z. No, they don't want you because you're no good. Nothing to do with your race or sex or anything. And none of that matters. It's the quality of your candidacy.
Well, you might be interested to know that the radical lefty has also called for the royal family and all private schools to be abolished.
Well, that's him dead to me then. Get rid of the
Anyone goes against the royal
And
family.
just to be clear, that's not a threat.
No.
What do you think about that, Jonathan? Ban all private schools?
Well, ludicrous ban, but the real beneficiaries of that would be the Irish, I think, because the public schools have simply moved to Ireland. And also, it'd be an interesting one to take on the churches saying, actually, you're not competent of running a school. Well, picking a fight with some of your core supporters, I think.
I mean, I don't think he's got a lot of chance, to be honest with this. I don't think we have to worry too much about him. But
well, his problem, to some extent, is that you've got to get 20 odd MPs to support you, and he's struggling, isn't he?
well, with views like that, I'm not surprised.
Thornberry. Is it Thornberry?
I'd like to see Lammy end up as the leader. That'd be great.
What about Keir Starmer, Jonathan? I'm sure you've got something useful to tell us about him.
Oh, Sam, don't give him an in about his Keir Starmer. Go on then, Jonathan. What's your problem with Keir Starmer?
No, it's the BBC going on about Keir Starmer comparing him with Keir Hardie and saying
Because he's got the same name.
well, he was named after it, apparently.
Okay.
So I mean, who on earth would name their child Keir after Keir Hardie? I mean, the man,
Is there some other Keir that you could name him after? Or is it...
Well, I assume it's a normal enough name, otherwise the original Keir...
I've never met a Keir. Has anyone else
Well,
ever
it's
met
a
a Keir?
Scottish name.
No.
Well, that would explain it then.
Yeah, but anyhow, Keir Hardie founded the Labour Party, and for that really I can't forgive him, but putting that aside, we get to the First World War, and whilst Britain is at war with Germany in 1915, and there was a shell shortage, he is trying to organise a general strike to close down the factories that are producing the ammunition for the British soldiers.
Well, that's leftists for you, Jonathan. There's never a strike they don't like.
No, I mean, he was out. But I mean, at the end of the day, he is responsible for added deaths of working class soldiers on the Western Front as a result of his activities. The man was utterly evil.
Traitor.
A traitor.
Right.
And, to name, for someone's parents to name you after someone who is a traitor, I mean, the only thing that I think, saved Keir Hardie's reputation, such as it was the fact he died. He had a stroke, and
What's the matter with everyone tonight? You're all so spicy.
No, but I mean, Britain towards the end of the war was getting a bit more hands-on with shooting traitors, and I mean, particularly in Ireland, and Keir Hardie would have been a strong favourite, I think, for that.
Wow, that's a strong view you've got there. I mean, just to be clear tonight, so we've made a declaration that we should bring back the death penalty for people who stop being royals. We've made a declaration that we have to remove people's eyes and give them to other people if the law decrees it. And now we've made this declaration that we should shoot traitors who and anyone who's called Keir, basically. Is that?
Well, no, not everybody who's called Keir, but I mean, the idea that Keir Hardie
To be tried in the Hague for war crimes.
Keir Hardie was just a traitor. That's
What is
all
wrong
there
with
is
these
to
two
it.
tonight?
I
They're
know.
like evil.
No, I know, but they're trying to. This is a counterbalance for you. If you imagine a set of scales, you're so light that they have to massively weigh the other side to make up for your softness. Anyway, guys, I think we pretty much brought the end to this.
I was going to mention Mrs. Long Bailey.
We've done that one last time, Long Bailey.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean the thing is,
What about the other Lisa Nandy? I have to. I'm sorry, right? No, actually, I can't say it. Just something really funny happened this weekend regarding Lisa Nandy, and me saying to someone who said they were voting for her, "Did you know what her name is an anagram of?" And they weren't impressed.
Oh, don't start the anagram off again.
No, but I mean, anyhow, Mrs. Long Bailey. The BBC did this article about sort of how all these characters who are sort of putting their names forward for the leadership are sort of trying to emphasise their kind of working class connections. And Log Bailey is a classic in as much she. As it says here, she may have worked in a pawn shop and at a call centre before entering politics, but she ran a successful career in law. Not unlike Thornbury and Starmer, who've done likewise. But anyway, she said on her election leaflet that she grew up watching her father Jimmy worrying when round after round of redundancies were inflicted on the Salford docks where he worked. Fact, the docks closed when she was aged 2.
Well, she might have been a very thoughtful 2-year-old. Come on, she could have been like a big brain 2-year-old. She's like, oh no, the docks are closing.
You don't think she was just a complete bullshitter then?
No.
Well, there's a possibility that it could be either way, I think.
Yeah.
Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say that at age 2 she was concerned about those redundancies. Because it's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, when you've got an anagram name like that, well, you know. Anyway, guys, it's time to say goodnight. We've done it. We've finished with Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right of centre viewpoint. Say goodnight, Sam.
Night.
Say something that isn't goodnight, Susan.
See you later.
and say something that isn't either of those, Jonathan.
Cheerio.
Not bad.
Bye all.